today's Krishna book reading. Krishna book is a summary of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada very mercifully gave us.
So it's chapter 52, Krishna kidnaps Rukmini.
Krishna kidnaps Rukmini.
There you go. Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Raksha Mam. Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Pahi Mam.
Deity worship in the temple has been in existence since the beginning of Vedic culture. There is a class of men described in Bhagavad Gita as the Veda Rata. They believe only in Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, but not in the temple worship. Such foolish people may here take note that although this marriage of Krishna and Rukmini took place more than 5,000 years ago, there were arrangements for temple worship. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. The worshippers of the demigods attain the abodes of the demigods. There were many people who worshipped the demigods and many who directly worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The system of demigod worship was directed mainly to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh, and the sun god, and the goddess Durga. Lord Shiva and the goddess Durga were worshipped even by the royal families. The minor demigods were worshipped by silly, inferior people. As far as the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are concerned, they simply worship Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the worship of demigods is condemned, but not forbidden. There it is clearly explained that less intelligent men worship the demigods for material profit. On the other hand, even though Rukmini was a goddess of fortune, she went to the temple of the goddess Durga because the family deity was worshipped there. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that as Rukmini proceeded towards the temple of the goddess Durga, within her heart, she always thought of the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, when Rukmini went to the temple, it was not with the intention of an ordinary person who goes to beg for material benefits. Her only goal was Krishna. When people go to the temple of a demigod, the objective is actually Krishna, since it is he who empowers the demigods to provide material benefits. As Rukmini proceeded towards the temple, she was silent and grave. Her mother and her girlfriend were by her side, and the wife of a Brahmana was in the centre. Surrounding her were royal bodyguards. The custom of a would-be bride going to the temple of a demigod is still practiced in India. As the procession continued, various musical sounds were heard. Drums, conch shells, bugles of different sizes, such as panavas, turyas, and beris, combined to make a sound which was not only auspicious but very sweet to hear. Thousands of wives of respectful Brahmanas were present, all dressed very nicely with suitable ornaments. They presented Rukmini with flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and a variety of colourful garments to assist her in worshipping Lord Shiva and the goddess Durga. So I was going to give it.
I know you like reading. Some of these ladies were very old and knew perfectly well how to chant prayers to the goddess Durga and Lord Shiva. So, followed by Rukmini and others, they led these prayers before the deity. Rukmini offered her prayers to the deity by saying, My dear goddess Durga, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, as well as to your children. The goddess Durga has 4 famous children, 2 daughters, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and the goddess of learning, Saraswati, and 2 famous sons, Lord Ganesha and Lord Kartikeya. They are all considered to be demigods and goddesses. Since the goddess Durga is always worshipped with her famous children, Rukmini specifically offered her respectful obeisances to the deity in that way. However, her prayers were different. ordinary people pray to the goddess Durga for material wealth, fame, profit, strength, and so on. Rukmini, however, desired to have Krishna for her husband and therefore prayed that the deity be pleased with her and bless her. Since she desired only Krishna, her worship of the demigods is not condemned. While Rukmini was praying, she presented a variety of items before the deity, chief of which were water, different kinds of flames, incense, garments, garlands, and various foodstuffs prepared with ghee, such as puris and kachoris. She also offered fruits, sugarcane, betel nuts, and spices. With great devotion, Rukmini offered them to the deity according to the regulative principles directed by the old Brahmana ladies. After this ritualistic ceremony, the ladies offered the remnants of the foodstuff to Rukmini as prasadam, which she accepted with great respect. When Rukmini offered her obeisances to the ladies and to the goddess Durga, then Rukmini offered. After the business of deity worship was finished, Rukmini got hold of the hand of one of her girlfriends and left the temple, accompanied by the others. All the princes and visitors who came to Kundina for the marriage assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini. The princes were especially eager to see her because they all actually thought that they would have Rukmini as their wife. Struck with wonder upon seeing Rukmini, they thought she was especially manufactured by the Creator to bewilder all great chivalrous princes. Her body was well constructed, the middle portion being thin. Her cheeks were high, and she had pink lips and a beautiful face, enhanced by her scattered hair and by different kinds of earrings. Around her ankles she wore jeweled lockets. The bodily luster and beauty of Rukmini appeared as if painted by an artist, perfectly presenting beauty, following the descriptions of great poets. Rukmini's breasts are described as being somewhat high, indicating that she was just a youth, not more than 13 or 14 years old. Her beauty was especially intended to attract the attention of Krishna. Although the princess gazed upon her beautiful features, she was not at all proud. Her eyes moved restlessly and This is called samadhi.
Yeah, very good. I'm impressed. Her eyes moved restlessly, and when she smiled very simply, like an innocent girl, her teeth appeared just like lotus flowers. Expecting Krishna to take her away at any moment, she proceeded slowly towards her home. Her legs moved just like a full-grown swan, and her anchor bells tinkled mildly. As already explained, the chivalrous princes assembled there were so overwhelmed by Rukmini's beauty that they almost became unconscious. Full of lust, they hopelessly desired Rukmini's hand, comparing their own beauty to hers. Srimati Rukmini, however, was not interested in any of them. In her heart, she was simply expecting Krishna to come and carry her away. As she was adjusting the ornaments on her left hand finger, she happened to look upon the princes and suddenly saw that Krishna was present amongst them. Although Rukmini had never before seen Krishna, she was always thinking of him and thus had no difficulty recognizing him amongst the princely order. Krishna, unconcerned with the other princes, immediately took the opportunity to place Rukmini on his chariot, marked by a flag bearing an image of Garuda. He then proceeded slowly, without fear, taking Rukmini away exactly as a lion takes a deer from the midst of jackals. Meanwhile, Balaram appeared on the scene with soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. Jarasandha, who had many times experienced defeat by Krishna, began to roar, "How is this? Krishna is taking Rukmini away from us without opposition. What is the use of being What is the use of our being chivalrous fighters with arrows? My dear princess, just look, we are losing our reputation. He's just like a jackal taking booty from a lion." Ascends the Bhaktivedanta Purport to the 52nd chapter of Krishna. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini.
Oh, welcome.
Oh.
We have come to chapter 53. Krishna defeats all the princes and takes Rukmini home to Dwarka. All the princes led by Jarasandha were very angry at Krishna's having kidnapped Rukmini. Struck by Rukmini's beauty, they had fallen from the backs of their horses and elephants, but now they began to stand up and properly arm themselves. Picking up their bows and arrows, they began to chase Krishna on their chariots, horses, and elephants. To check their progress, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty turned and faced them. Thus, terrible fighting began between the two belligerent groups. The princes opposing Krishna, who were led by Charasanda and were all expert in fighting, shot their arrows at the Yadu soldiers just as a cloud splashes the face of a mountain with torrents of rain. Gathered on the surface of a mountain, a cloud does not move very much, and therefore the force of rain is much more severe on a mountain than anywhere else. The opposing princes were determined to defeat Krishna and recapture Rukmini from his custody, and they fought with him as severely as possible. Rukmini, seated by the side of Krishna, saw arrows raining from the opposing party onto the faces of the soldiers of Yadu. In a fearful attitude, she looked upon Krishna's face, expressing her gratefulness that he had taken such a great risk for her sake only. Her eyes moving, she appeared sorry, and Krishna, who could immediately understand her mind, encouraged.
Well done.
Well done, yeah. I tried to control myself.
That's it. Encouraged her with these words, "My dear Rukmini, don't worry. Please rest assured that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty will kill all the opposing soldiers without delay." As Krishna was speaking with Rukmini, the commanders of the Yadu dynasty soldiers, headed by Lord Balaram, who is also known as Sankarshan, as well as Gadadhara, not tolerating the defiant attitude of the opposing soldiers, began to strike their horses, elephants, and chariots with arrows. As the fighting progressed, the princes and soldiers of the enemy began to fall from their horses, elephants, and chariots. Within a short time, millions of severed heads, decorated with helmets and earrings, had fallen on the battlefield. The soldiers' hands were cut off along with their bows and arrows and clubs. One head was piled upon another, and one horse upon another. All the infantry soldiers, as well as their camels, elephants, and asses, fell with severed heads. When the enemy, headed by Jarasandha, found that they were gradually being defeated by the soldiers of Krishna, they thought it unwise to risk losing in the battle for the sake of Shishupal. Shishupal himself should have fought to rescue Rukmini from the hands of Krishna. But when the soldiers saw that Shishupal was not competent to fight with Krishna, they decided not to lose their strength unnecessarily. Therefore, they ceased fighting and dispersed. Some of the princes, as a matter of etiquette, appeared before Shishupal. They saw that Shishupal was discouraged, like one who had lost his wife. His face appeared dried up. He had lost all his energy, and all the lustre of his body had disappeared. They addressed Shishupal thus: "Our dear Shishupal, don't be discouraged in this way. You belong to the royal order and are the chief among the fighters. There is no question of distress or happiness for a person like you, because neither of these conditions is everlasting. Take courage. Don't be disappointed by this temporary reverse. After all, we are not the final actors. As puppets dance in the hands of a magician, we are all dancing by the will of the Supreme. And according to His grace alone, we suffer distress or enjoy happiness. We should therefore be equiposed in all circumstances." The whole catastrophe of the defeat was due to the envious nature of Rukmini's brother Rukmi. Having seen his sister forcibly taken away by Krishna after he had planned to marry her to Shishupal, Rukmi was frustrated. So he and Shishupal and his friend and
intended brother-in-law returned to their respective homes. Rukmi, very much agitated, was determined to teach Krishna a lesson personally. He called for his own soldiers, a military phalanx consisting of several thousand elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry, and, equipped with this military strength, he began to follow Krishna to Dwarka. To show his prestige, Rukmi promised all the returning kings, "You could not help Shishupal marry my sister, Rukmini, but I cannot allow Rukmini to be taken away by Krishna. I shall teach him a lesson Now I'm going to follow him. He presented himself as a big commander and vowed before all the princes, unless I kill Krishna in the fight and bring back my sister from his clutches, I shall not return to my capital city, Kundina. I make this vow before you all, and you will see that I shall fulfill it. After this, vibrating all these boasting words, Rukmini immediately got on his chariot and told his chariot driver to pursue Krishna. He said, I want to fight with him immediately. This cowherd boy has become proud of his tricky way of fighting with Kshatriyas, but today I shall teach him a good lesson. Because he had the impudence to kidnap my sister, I, with my sharp arrows, shall teach him very good lessons indeed. Thus this unintelligent man, Rukmi, ignorant of the extent of the strength and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, voiced his impudent threats. In great stupidity, he soon stood before Krishna, telling him repeatedly, Stop for a minute and fight with me. After saying this, he drew his bow and directly shot 3 forceful arrows against Krishna's body. Then he condemned Krishna as the most abominable descendant of the Yad dynasty and asked him to stand before him for a minute so that he could teach him a good lesson. You are carrying away my sister just like a crow stealing clarified butter meant for use in sacrifice. You are proud of your military strength, but you cannot fight according to regulative principles. You have stolen my sister. Now I shall relieve you of your false prestige. You can keep my sister in your possession only until I beat you to the ground for good with my arrows. Lord Krishna, after hearing all these crazy words from Rukmi, immediately shot an arrow and severed the string of Rukmi's bow, making him unable to use another arrow. Rukmi immediately took another bow and shot another 5 arrows at Krishna. Being attacked for the second time,
Krishna again severed Rukmi's bowstring. Rukmi took a 3rd bow and Krishna again cut off its string. This time, to teach Rukmi a lesson, Krishna personally shot 6 arrows at him and then shot another 8 arrows, killing 4 horses and 4 arrows. With 4 arrows, killing the chariot driver with another arrow and chopping off the upper portion of Rukmi's chariot, including the flag, with the remaining 3 arrows. Rukmi, having run out of arrows, took assistance from swords, shields, tridents, lances, and similar weapons used for fighting hand to hand. But Krishna immediately broke them all in the same way. Being repeatedly baffled in his attempts, Rukmi took his sword and ran swiftly toward Krishna, just as a fly proceeds toward a fire. But as soon as Rukmi reached Krishna, Krishna got his weapon to pieces. This time Krishna took out his sharp sword and was about to kill him immediately. But Rukmi's sister, Rukmini, fell down at Krishna's lotus feet in a very grievous tone. Trembling with great fear, began to plead with her husband. Rukmini first addressed Krishna as Yogeshvara. Yogeshvara means one who is possessed of inconceivable opulence and energy. Krishna possesses inconceivable opulence and energy, whereas Rukmini's brother had only limited military potency. Krishna is immeasurable, whereas her brother was measured in every step of his life. Therefore, Rukmi was not comparable even to an insignificant insect before the unlimited power of Krishna. She also addressed Krishna as the god of the gods. There are many powerful demigods, such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, but Krishna is the Lord of all these gods, whereas Rukmini's brother was not only an ordinary human being, but in fact the lowest of all, because he had no understanding of Krishna. In other words, a human being who has no conception of the actual position of Krishna is the lowest in human society. Then Rukmini addressed Krishna as Mahabhuja, which means with unlimited strength. She also addressed Krishna as Jagatpati, the master of the whole cosmic manifestation. In comparison, her brother was only an ordinary prince. In this way, Rukmini compared the position of Rukmi with that of Krishna and very feelingly pleaded her husband not to kill her brother just at the auspicious time of her being united with Krishna, but to excuse him. In other words, she displayed her real position as a woman. She was happy to get Krishna as her husband.
At the moment when her marriage to another was to be performed, but she did not want it to be at the loss of her elder brother, who after all loved his young sister and wanted to hand her over to one who, according to his own calculation, was a better man. While Rukmi was praying to Krishna for the life of her brother, her whole body trembled, and because of her anxiety her face appeared to dry up. Her throat became choked, and, due to her trembling, the ornaments on her body loosened and fell, scattered on the ground. In this manner, when Rukmini was very much perturbed, she fell on the ground, and Lord Krishna immediately became compassionate and agreed not to kill the foolish Rukmi. But at the same time, he wanted to give some light punishment, so he tied him up with a piece of cloth and snipped at his moustache, beard and hair, keeping some spots here and there. While Krishna was dealing with Rukmi in this way, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty, commanded by Balaram himself, broke the whole strength of Rukmi's army, just as an elephant in a tank discards the feeble stem of a lotus flower. In other words, as an elephant breaks the whole construction of a lotus flower while bathing in a reservoir of water, the military strength of the Yadus broke up Rukmi's forces. When the commanders of the Yadu dynasty came back to see Krishna, they were all surprised to see the condition of Rukmi. Lord Balaram became especially compassionate for his sister-in-law, who was newly married to his brother. To please Rukmini, Balaram personally untied Rukmi, and to further please her, Balaram, as the eldest brother of Krishna, spoke some words of chastisement. Krishna, your action is not at all satisfactory, he said. This is an abomination very much contrary to our family tradition. To cut someone's hair and shave his moustache and beard is almost comparable to killing him. Whatever Rukmi may have been, he is now our brother-in-law, a relative of our family, and you should not have put him into such a condition. After this, to pacify Rukmini, Lord Balaram said to her, you should not be sorry that your brother has been made odd-looking. Everyone suffers or enjoys the results of his own actions. Lord Balaram wanted to impress upon Rukmini that she should not have been sorry for the consequences her brother suffered due to his actions. There was no need of being too affectionate towards such a brother. Lord Balaram again turned towards Krishna and said, my dear Krishna,
a relative, even though he commits such a blunder and deserves to be killed, should be excused. For when such a relative is conscious of his own fault, that consciousness itself is like death. Therefore, there is no need to kill him. Balaram again turned toward Rukmini and informed her that the current duty of the Kshatriya in human society is so fixed that, according to the principles of fighting, one's own brother may become an enemy. Then a Kshatriya does not hesitate to kill his own brother. In other words, Lord Balaram wanted to instruct Rukmini that Rukmi and Krishna were right in not showing mercy to each other in the fighting, despite the family consideration that they happened to be brothers-in-law. Sri Balaram informed Rukmini that Kshatriyas are typical emblems of the materialistic way of life. They become puffed up whenever there is a question of material acquisition. Therefore, when there is a fight between two belligerent Kshatriyas for kingdom, land, wealth, women, prestige or power, they try to put one another into the most abominable condition. Balaram instructed Rukmini that her affection toward her brother Rukmi, who had created enmity with so many persons, was a perverse consideration befitting an ordinary materialist. Her brother's character was not at all admirable, considering his treatment toward other friends, and yet Rukmini, as an ordinary woman, was affectionate toward him. He was not fit to be her brother, and still Rukmini was lenient toward him. Besides that, Balaram continued, the consideration that a person is neutral or is one's friend or enemy is generally made by persons in the bodily concept of life. Such foolish persons are bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. The spirit soul is of the same pure quality in any embodiment of matter, But those who are not sufficiently intelligent see only the bodily differences between animals and man, literates and illiterates, rich and poor, which cover the pure spirit soul. Such differences, observed merely on the basis of the body, are exactly like the differences between fires in terms of the various types of fuel they consume. Whatever the size and shape of the fuel, there is no such variety of size and shape in the fire which comes out. Similarly, in the sky there are no differences in size or shape. In this way, Balaram appeased them by his moral and ethical instructions. He stated further, this body is part of the material manifestation, living entity or spirit soul, being in contact now with matter. So we end here?
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of the
Sentence.
sentence. So,
Sentence. You can finish the sentence.
okay. So the living entity or spirit soul being in contact with matter is transmigrating due to illusory enjoyment from one body to another, and that transmigration is known as material existence. Okay, we end here.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Hare Krishna.
And continue tomorrow.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
6:30. Hare Krishna.
Even if there was nobody on the other side, we still keep reading because it's so enjoyable.
All auspicious.
And now
Yes.
starts 7 o'clock. Another group of devotees start reading Chaitanya, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is also wonderful. So spiritual life is full of varieties, and variety is mother of enjoyment. Hare Krishna.
Hari Om.